I'm going to use this, by the way.
That's fine. I have my copy.
Okay. So you're just going to do it on your phone?
Yes.
We'll figure that out. So just a heads up. So you know I'm going to be like, I have all these assignments that are due, and all of them require that you videotape the lessons. So similar to what we talked about last week, so I'm going to be working with you and Davis. Her last name is actually Davis, not Wu. She got married.
Okay.
But I'm going to be working with you, Davis, Hughes, on like a bunch of math stuff. So we'll be having like weekly data meetings still. I'll be asking you to swivel some parts of your class so I can look at videos even if I'm not here and give feedback. So I'll be giving you regular feedback on what you can do to make your practice better. And me and Carly will be syncing up so that the same things that I'm telling you should be aligned with what she's telling you. So like Carly's working with you on champs, and that's still applicable to like what we're doing here. So they'll be like you won't feel like, oh, she told me something different than what she told me. We're like working together with the coaching. Cool. Okay, hurry up, and then when you leave, close my door. Are you video? Don't start yet.
I already started. We'll cut it.
Oh my God.
You don't have much time.
I know. I'm gonna fly through this. I'm gonna try to be done in 35 minutes. Do you have your script with you?
Yeah. So.
Okay, cool. And I have it too, so let me just yeah,
Like
hello.
right when you told me to hold her, she called me.
Girl.
So I had to come down here.
How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you? You taking her back?
Yes. Thank you.
I literally screamed, how in the world do you have my job? And I sit my job now.
To lunch and recess. I ain't even gone to the steps to them kids in case one of the kids are acting funny.
No, I got you. Thank you. I'm gonna come get her back.
Okay.
Can you pick up the kids just in case, like, we just need like a few extra minutes? I'll let you have an extra bathroom break or something. Appreciate it. Alright. So, thanks for coming to meet with me today. I know that it's been a big whirlwind, like coming into a new position and learning a lot, so I appreciate you being so willing to learn. Before we get started, I just want to highlight for you how much I like the chant, like the motto, hard work, dedication. Like kids were like super amped up. They were like, yeah, hard work, hard work, hard work. And it just reminded me of like my lacrosse days when we would do mad cheers and we'd all be in the middle like, yeah. And I was also actually very super because I was like, oh, how are they gonna go back to their seats? But then like they literally went back in like 2 seconds. I was like, oh, they're all of them. They all sat down. They all went back to their seats. It was super. It was really great and very powerful moment. So I really love that.
I stole that from my basketball team.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like the sports thing. It's working. It's working. So today I want to work on internalizing lesson plans so that you can deliver lesson plans. You can be more confident. You can deliver them with more fidelity, and you can use some of the skills that Carly's been teaching you as far as champs goes. So I'm going to focus on that. So there are lots of steps when you work on internalizing lesson plans. So we'll be working on this probably for the next few weeks, but I want to work on 3 things specifically today, okay? So the first thing that I want to work on is that step 1 is you're going to read your lesson plan. You're going to read the entire lesson plan. Now I want to just throw something out here for you right now. I know right now that like you don't get lesson plans in a timely fashion, right? So like because we're trying to write lesson plans, like Carly's trying to write lesson plans and do her job and do these things. So like you're not getting lesson plans in a timely fashion, and I want to just put that out there right now. So what I'm telling you right now is something you can literally do in a short amount of time. So like even if you get your lesson plan and it's like at 8 o'clock when you walk through the door, you can have all these steps finished by 8:25 and still feel good about delivering it to your first class, which is going to be key because your first class is the top class. They're going to be driving most of our scores for 3rd grade. So the first thing is read it. Read the whole lesson so that you understand where the lesson is going. The second step is going to be that you're going to write the objective in your own words. So a lot of times, like, we're given an objective, but you want to then write the objective just in your own words, so you understand, like, what do kids have to learn today when they leave here, and make sure you understand it. And you want to jot down keywords. Keywords is going to be very important because these are the things you're going to want to say over and over and over and stamp for kids by the end of the lesson. So by the end of the lesson, if they didn't know anything else, they should understand these words. So those are steps 1 and 2. And the last step is that you're going to actually do the work.
Yeah.
You gotta get in the habit of doing the exit ticket, doing the independent work, doing the table work, all the work that you're asking them to do. You actually need to have done all that work ahead of time, so that when you get up to deliver it, you're not like, oh, they gotta draw. Like, you're ready for what they know how to do because you've actually literally sat here and done the whole sheet. That's especially important because you didn't make it. If you made it, it'd be different. But like, if you're internalizing somebody else's plans, you've gotta do all the work, so you know where the lesson is taking you. Okay, so we're gonna work on those 3 things.
So read the entire lesson plan, write the objectives in my own words, know and use keywords, and actually do the work.
Yep. So now what I'm gonna do for you really quick is I'm gonna model for you. So like, you're gonna deliver this again today, right? So like, I'm gonna model for you the thoughts, like the internalizing using our 3 steps. I'm gonna model for that for you now, and then we're gonna look at tomorrow, so that at least you have a little jump start on tomorrow, and you begin to like get in the habit of doing this. Okay, cool. All right, so here's your lesson from today. Now, this lesson is 7 pages long, and I've already observed you, so I'm going to start reading, but I'm going to start reading your lesson plan on page 3, because there are certain parts that you do well, and I want to skip to the part where you want to spend most of your time. Like, your mindfulness is dope. Like, you don't need to spend most of your time there. So if you only have a little bit of time, I want you to spend it here on the whole group lesson and on the table lesson that comes directly after. So I'm gonna read some of it, but really what I want you to pay attention to is like the questions that I'm asking myself as I read. Alright, so I see here for my lesson I have compelling student-centered why. So I have the why, so that the kids know what they're supposed to be doing. So on Friday, we solved area problem models using formula. We also found the unknown. Given many of you did a good job of this. Alright, so as I read this first part, one thing that sticks out to me is I need to make sure that I'm clear on the why, but I also need to make sure that I remember to tell them that they're gonna take this quiz on Friday. Okay. So as I'm reading each step, I'm reading each step to make sure that I understand each step of my script, but I'm also reading to make sure that I just like can highlight different things that I need to be clear on. And as I read, I might highlight different pieces. So as I read the script, don't worry, I'll have this for you. But as I read the script, I might highlight different pieces of the script. I might like put a star next to something and be like, oh, this is mad important. Let me like make sure that I remember that. So like as you read the script, you can take little notes. I take notes by just writing in my notebook. So I have my own little notebook. It's like color coded, and that's how I like to take my own notes when I look at lesson plans. You might like post it, so maybe you like post it, and you're gonna like write down things that are important to you and post them on your lesson plan, okay? But whatever helps you to remember, or you might just write all over it. Carly writes all over her stuff, so she'll just be like da-da-da-da-da. So however you wanna do it, but as you're reading it, just think about like, what are the things that are important? So I'm gonna keep reading. So clear, crisp teaching points. I'm also gonna pay attention to these timestamps. So I'm gonna make sure I understand the lesson, enough so that I can get it done in the time that it's allotted. So to be a math champ during the lesson, we will do CHAMPS. Yep, so we're working on champs, so I'm gonna make sure that I understand champs, and if I don't remember something, to make sure I keep repeating it to myself so I can remember all the steps when I get in front of students. And I also noticed there are some things that are bolded, so I know like as I'm reading through the key points, I definitely need to remember the formula for length times for area. need to know what it means to distribute. Yep. I'm just gonna keep reading. Cool, and then it just gets to the model. The pieces of the model that I want to pay attention to are like the places where like I actually have to do something. So if it's like, oh, I need to write this equation, be ready to make sure that I have my marker ready, that I know what I'm putting on the board for students. Cool. So that's the first piece. The first piece is literally read the whole lesson, because sometimes as teachers, we don't read everything. Read everything, make sure you understand everything, and note anything on here that you want to do. And make sure you're prepared. So like, do I need my grid paper up front? Do I have my anchor chart that I need? Do I need 2 different colors so I can show like how you add on for composite shapes, right? Like, do I have all those things? So making sure that you have all the things that you need. Cool? So that's step 1. Step 1, read the lesson. Now step 2 is, after you've read the lesson, you're gonna go back to the objective and you're gonna go find the keywords. So I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the lesson and I'm gonna find the objective. So the objective today was, today we will use the distributive property to find area, break rectangles into smaller parts, to find and add 2 areas and create cool expressions. So I'm just gonna go back and think to myself, well, what does that mean to me? Like, what are kids actually gonna have to do? So if I'm rewriting this to myself, I'm gonna write, so today, and again, this is not for kids, this is just for you.
Right.
So you're just kind of rewriting it in your own words to make sure that you understand. So today, we will use the distributive property. And I may not remember exactly what the distributive property is, right? So I'm literally writing distributive property, parenthesis, times, plus parenthesis, times something else. So I'm literally writing that down so that I can remember what it is for me. Distributive property, we are breaking up shapes, especially rectangles, to find 2 pieces and write expressions. So that's what I'm doing for myself. So I just put, today we will use a distributive property. I modeled it for myself so I can remember what it looks like. And we are going to break up shapes, especially rectangles, to find areas of pieces. And we're gonna write expressions. So that was me. Okay. So you're just gonna rewrite it in your own words. Rewriting it in your own words is helping to solidify in your mind what you're trying to get kids to do. Okay, so that's all that's doing. All right, and then I'm gonna go back for keywords. So there were some keywords in here that were super important. Distributive property was important, so I'm gonna pull that out. Formula, area formula, so like length times width times equals area, which was really important. Decomposing is an important keyword. I'm gonna keep going through and see what I go. I would say expression, because they had to write a lot of expressions, so that's gonna be important. So I'm gonna stick with those. And I'm gonna put these keywords off to the side on my script, and I might even like post them in the front of my room so I can keep going back, like distributive property. Like, this is the formula, like having it in front of kids so that they can also see it and it can remind me like these things are really important. If I'm not talking about these things, if I'm not pointing these things out to kids, then they're probably not gonna get the lesson, because those are the important pieces of it. Cool. So that's step 2. All right, and then the final step is, I'm gonna do the work. So I'm literally gonna sit here for a second, and I'm literally gonna write. So on my work, when I do the exemplar, so what you're doing is you're creating an exemplar, and an exemplar is the work with all the right answers, so that when you walk around and you're helping kids, you actually know what's happening. You know what's happening, you have it in front of you, and you know what kids could be doing. Okay, and so normally I either put on here exemplar or the key. It's the key. So I'm gonna write like the area for A. So the length is 6, the width is 4, 24. The area for B, then I'm gonna do the same thing over here. So I'm gonna write 6 times 4 plus 3 times 4 is 36. Now, why would this have been helpful? If you would have had this in your hand when you went to do, so when you went up and I chimed in a little bit because you started talking about number bonds,
Yeah.
if you had this in your hand, you would have already known the numbers. Because you could have said number bonds, but then like you would have known it would have been 6 and 4 and 3 and 4. Because you would have had this right in front of you to do, instead of trying to do it at the top, off the top of your head, which can be difficult when you've never seen the lesson. And then I'm gonna do this one. So the area was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 5. So 6, 5, 30. This was links by 2. See, this is why you gotta do it. Cause I'm like, what was it? So then this is 2, and this is 5, and so 30, and so this is 40. See, this is why you gotta do it. Cause even like I sat through this lesson and still I made that mistake. So like if you go through it now, you'll get all the kinks out. And I would turn it on the back and I would keep going. I literally would fill out this whole thing, right? And here it's gonna be different because like kids could pick whatever they wanted, but like let's say we did half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's say we just did it right here as an example. So maybe like kids who are struggling in your next class, if they're not sure where to put a line or they're confused, do this one because you've already done it. So find the whole length. The length was 14 and the width was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so if you decompose this, you can do 7 plus 7, which was 14, right? And so if they did this one, they could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could do 7 times 5, and then they could do 7 times 5 again, because this would be A and this would be B. So they'll label them so that they can remember what they like when they decompose them. And then this would be 35, and this would be 35, and then this would be 70. So even if they can't, they can't think of their own, you can use this one now as the model, because now you have an exemplar. So for a kid who's really struggling, right, in your second class, you can be like, all right, well, how about this? Why don't we decompose this shape into half? What would that look like? Okay. So now I've done the work. Okay. Now let's talk about think about what I just showed you. So think about all the steps, reading the entire lesson plan, rewriting the objective in your own words, and writing down the keywords that you're gonna need, and doing the work. How does that look different from maybe how you prepped for the lesson today?
Actually look like I'm ready to teach it for one.
Mhm.
But my modeling would be a lot more crisp, I guess, because like you said, I wasn't ready to explain the distributive property in depth. So I feel like if I actually did this before, then I would, just like you said, have the knowledge of what I'm going to be teaching, and I won't look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Also, 'cause that's what I felt while I was up there. That's why I don't know if you were looking at me like help. Help. But, I think if I know a little bit more about the lesson, like if I read the lesson, obviously that's the first thing when you're reading everything, and I'm doing the actual work, that's gonna help me out, because the repetition of it is gonna just stick in my brain. And I think what's gonna be the most beneficial is writing out the objective in my own words, because that language is kind of hard for me. So I feel like if I'm able to write it in my own words, and I'll be able to explain it differently. It's like I'll be able to put it into some layman's terms. So I know it'll be a totally different experience for one, and I think that I'll be able to reach more students.
Yeah.
Because that's what my ultimate goal is.
I agree with everything you just said. Sorry, I have a cold. And the one thing that I want to add is when I looked at engagement. So when you were prepared, when you knew what you were going to teach, when you used CHAMPS, right?
Yeah.
When you did all those things, and some of those pieces are because you've been able to read them multiple times, like they haven't changed, like fluency work, it hasn't changed, so you've read it many times, and so you feel more comfortable. Mindful minutes has never changed. Let's move has really never changed, right? Like the expectation and the directions that you're giving, right? They've kind of stayed the same. So you've been able to read those, and you've been able to kind of pull out like the key pieces and what kids are supposed to do. So when you deliver those, you look way more confident. You look like you have way more together. And during those pieces of the lessons, you also have way more engagement. So like you actually get kids to follow everything that you're saying, and they do what you ask them to do. As opposed to like here, your engagement went down a little bit, and you had more kids off task because you kind of weren't sure where you were going, and then like your top kids were like kind of moving on and kind of doing it and being like, well, what are we doing? Well, how? So it also is gonna help you like maintain the pace too. Like you can like, cause the other pieces of your day, they run more smooth and more quick and more like boom, 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 great, move. And like this didn't. It dragged on for probably a little bit longer than it had to, but probably because you weren't very clear. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay. So now let's think about tomorrow. So you're kind of good on this. I'm gonna give you this key for you to keep. You already have your lessons. We've talked about like some objectives and keywords, but now I want to focus on tomorrow because tomorrow is the unknown, what we don't know.
Yeah.
So tomorrow you're gonna be doing somewhat of the same thing. And we're going to be working on composite figures, right? Carly's going to be putting the lesson together for you, but it's very, very, it's going to be very aligned to like this lesson right here. So what I want you to do is I want you to take 2 minutes, and I want you to look through, I want you to begin to read. I want you to begin to read this lesson. So you're going to start reading right here, then you're going to flip it. You're going to start reading the launch of the lesson, and you're going to start reading right here, okay? And while you read the lesson, I want you to think about things that you might want to highlight, or things that you may not understand, or things you're like, oh, this is really important. Okay. Would you like Post-its, or would you like to write on your notebook? How would you
Write
like?
on my notebook.
Got you. Okay. So start with lesson 8, composite figures. And you can skip this piece. So you're right here and then turn the page. So I'm just gonna stop you right there. Of course, you're gonna need more time to read through all of it, but I just want you to get a good feel of that. So first, tell me like, what are, to the best of your knowledge, reading what you've read so far, what's happening tomorrow?
Composite figures.
Mm-hmm.
And composite figures are made up of 2 or more figures,
Mm-hmm.
and decomposing them
And how does that relate to today?
Today we were putting two together,
Mm-hmm.
and we were finding out the whole and breaking it up and decomposing.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing decomposing today,
Mm-hmm.
which was this is going to piggyback tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for us to understand how composite figures are broken into smaller parts, we have to know how to use a distributive property in order to do that. So that's why we needed today's lesson in order to do tomorrow's lesson. And I'm starting to get a little nervous because I feel like I didn't deliver today's lesson well enough.
So we can talk about that. Mm-hmm. We can talk about that. But see how just reading, like you didn't even read like the whole thing through, but see how reading the whole thing through, you already like, I kind of know what's supposed to happen tomorrow. I know how that relates to today. And I know that I may have went, like there may be some things that like, ooh, I gotta sure up, right? So like you can modify some piece of tomorrow, like maybe the table work, right? Or maybe a little bit of the fluency to get to some of those pieces, right? Or maybe we take another day and figure out how to combine the two. But like reading the lesson is important. And you just read the whole thing, right? And so now let's go back to the objective.